name is Ben. This is my sister-in-law, Amy, my mother-in-law, Tracy, my wife, Jordan, my brother, Nick, and my father-in-law, Doug. Now I will begin. When we first bought our house, the first room that really caught our eye was the sunroom. It had a warm and welcoming feeling to it, and we saw a lot of potential for what it could become. But we also saw that it was going to take a lot of work. It started out in our minds as a simple remodel, quickly became a project filled with unexpected challenges, messy surprises, and a lot of moments where things had to look worse before they could become better. Today, I will be talking about the process of redesigning our sunroom and explaining what made the project challenging, surprising, and rewarding. More specifically, I want to show how home projects are not always as simple as you expect. Sometimes, before you can make a room look better, you have to deal with the problems hiding underneath the surface. My wife and I have owned our 105-year-old house for more than a year now. And during that time, we have worked on multiple home projects throughout the house. Because of that, we have learned that older houses often come with problems you don't notice right away. Many people have probably experienced something similar. The first part of the redesign was overcoming the obstacles that came with working on a very old site. One of the biggest obstacles was figuring out what needed to be fixed before we could make any real improvements. Since the house is over 100 years old, and since the sunroom used to be an open porch, there were a lot of issues hiding behind the walls and underneath the older finishes. At first, we mainly thought about how we wanted the room to look, but once we started looking closer, it became clear that appearances was only one part of the project. For example, some of the old wood trim had lead paint on it. That meant we could not just sand it down and refinish it. We had to carefully remove it and replace it. Another issue we found was the electrical work. We found some sketchy previous DIY jobs, including outlets that were wired with reverse polarity. That was one of the moments where the project became less about making the room prettier and more about making the space safe. It's easy to get excited about the fun parts of the remodel, but when you find serious safety problems, you have to slow down and deal with them correctly. Because of those problems, the project became much more involved than we originally expected. Instead of rushing through, we had to take our time and handle each issue as it came up. Once we had a better understanding of the problems ahead of us, we began the messy teardown process. After we found the problems, we had to start removing the parts of the room that could not stay. The old lead-painted trim had to be carefully removed. We also had to open up parts of the walls to see what was hiding under them. Since the room had originally been an open porch, we were not completely sure what kind of framing or previous work we were going to find once we started tearing into it. It's probably one of the most frustrating parts of the project because it did not feel like progress at first. Usually, when people think about redesigning a room, they imagine the exciting parts, like new paint, new lighting, or new decorations. But during this stage, the room looked worse every time we worked on it. There were pieces of trim removed, the walls opened up, and tools laying everywhere, and we had to be careful where we stepped. Instead of getting the instant satisfaction of seeing the room improve, we had to look at a bigger mess than what we started with. At the same time, the messy stage was necessary. I was able to investigate the electrical situation and rework things so they were safer and more functional. The room had to be taken apart before it could be put back together the correct way. After the messy work was finished and the main safety concerns were fixed, we could finally start on the best part, seeing the room come together. At this stage, we could begin replacing what we had removed earlier. I cut and installed new trim around the front door, and I also added a larger and more decorative crown molding above the door, which helped give the area a cleaner and more finished look. I was also able to fix the wiring, and once that was done, I installed a new light switch and a set of lantern lights on the exterior of the house. It made the entryway feel more complete and functional. We made several other improvements that helped pull the redesign together. There was an odd enclosed fan in the sunroom, and it had a cage around it. It really didn't match the look that we wanted. I removed the fan, took the cage off of it, repainted the fan, and reinstalled it. That ended up being a good way to reuse what we already had, while still making it fit the room better. Then came one of the most instantly rewarding things: painting. We painted the walls and ceiling of the sunroom, and that made a huge difference. After spending so much time dealing with hidden problems and demolition, it felt great to finally see a visible transformation. Painting gave us a quick before and after feeling that made the room finally start to look like the place that we imagined when we first bought the house. By the end of the project, the sunroom had gone from an outdated space with hidden problems to a room that felt much cleaner, safer, and more welcoming. In conclusion, redesigning our sunroom was a project that had several important stages. First, we had to overcome the obstacles that came with working on an older home. Then, we had to tear out and fix the problem areas before we could move forward. Finally, we were able to put the room back together with new trim, lighting, and other finishing touches. The project showed me that redesigning a space is not always as simple as making it look nicer. Sometimes the most important parts of a project are the frustrating, messy, and unexpected stages that happen before the finished product. What started as a room with a lot of problems became one of the most rewarding and comfortable spaces